The Great Hall of the Galactic Assembly buzzed with noise as representatives from over 200 alien species took their seats. Today, they would decide the fate of a newly discovered planet called Earth. Commander Vexthul, a tall reptilian with dark scales and yellow eyes, stepped up to the speaker's platform. His claws clicked against the metal as he loaded his presentation. "Esteemed members of the Assembly," he began, his voice deep and cold. "We have studied the transmissions from this planet Earth for 20 cycles. What we found is deeply troubling." The screen behind him showed images of human wars, weapons, and violence. "These humans spend more resources on weapons than most of our species combined. They have fought wars over land, resources, and even ideas. They are divided into nations that constantly threaten each other. And now, they have begun to venture beyond their own world." In a small holding cell aboard the Draconian ship orbiting the assembly station, two humans watched the proceedings on a small screen. Greg Harper, a man with short brown hair and tired eyes, stood close to the screen. His uniform was wrinkled from days in captivity. Beside him, Captain Lisa Winters paced the small room, her blonde hair tied back tightly. "This is bad," Greg whispered. "Really bad." Back in the assembly hall, a gentle blue alien with 4 arms rose to speak. This was Ambassador Lum Era of the Lumerians, known for their peaceful ways. "Commander, have the humans shown any direct aggression toward other species? Have they attacked anyone beyond their world?" Lum Era asked. Vexthul sneered. "They have not had the chance yet, but their history is clear. They solve problems with violence. Would you wait until they develop faster ships and weapons before acting?" More images flashed on the screen. Nuclear explosions, tanks, fighter jets. "I propose we act now," Vexthul continued. "We have the technology to control their planet. We can enslave them, use their resources and their labor, and most importantly, prevent them from ever threatening galactic peace." The hall erupted in shouting and debate. Some species agreed immediately. Others seemed unsure. In their cell, Lisa stopped pacing. "They can't just vote to enslave an entire planet. There must be laws against this." Greg shook his head. "We're not members of their assembly. We have no rights here." After hours of debate, the assembly leader called for a vote. One by one, each species cast their decision. The Draconians voted to enslave. The Proxima Coalition voted to enslave. Species after species agreed. Only the Lumerians abstained, their blue faces sad as they watched the results. "The vote is complete," announced the assembly leader. "With only one abstention, the motion passes. Earth will be classified as a threat to galactic security. An invasion fleet will depart within 10 cycles to secure the planet and its population." The aliens cheered and congratulated each other. Plans were already being made for how to divide Earth's resources. In their cell, Greg slammed his fist against the wall. "We need to warn Earth." "How?" Lisa asked. "We're locked up here, and Earth is light years away." Greg pulled a small device from his boot, something he had built from parts stolen from their guards over weeks of captivity. "I've been working on this. It might be able to send a message through their communication system." Lisa looked at the door. "The guard will be back soon. We need to move now." Greg nodded and began working with the device, connecting it to a panel near their cell door. After a tense minute, the door slid open. They moved quickly through the corridors, avoiding patrols. They found the communication room unguarded. All the crew was celebrating the vote. Lisa stood watch while Greg worked frantically at the controls. "Sending now," he whispered. The message was brief. "Invasion coming. All species voted. Prepare." Just as the message sent, alarms blared through the ship. Their escape had been discovered. Heavy footsteps approached the communication room. Greg and Lisa looked at each other, knowing they would be caught. But they had done what they could. Earth had been warned. The United Nations Security Council room was silent after the message played. 12 men and women sat around the large table, their faces pale with shock. The warning from Greg and Lisa had reached Earth, and now they had to decide what to do. General Alan Mitchell stood up. He was tall with gray hair and a stern face. His uniform bore many medals from years of service. "We have confirmed this is not a joke," he said. "Our deep space monitors have detected large ships moving toward our solar system. We have 10 days at most before they arrive." A woman with short black hair spoke next. "What options do we have, General? Our space defense consists of a few satellites. We have nothing that could stop an alien invasion." Hélène looked at her. "That's not entirely true, Director Reynolds. It's time to activate Project Thunderbolt." Gasps filled the room. Most of the people there had never heard of Project Thunderbolt. Catherine Reynolds nodded slowly. "I was hoping we would have more time to test the systems." Hélène pressed a button, and a 3D map of Earth appeared above the table. "For the past 50 years, we have been reverse engineering technology from crashed alien ships. In secret, we built defense systems and hid them around the planet. Points of light appeared on the map, in mountains, under oceans, and hidden in plain sight in major cities. We need to call in our best scientists to activate these systems," Catherine said. "And we need to inform all world leaders immediately." Within hours, planes were flying to every corner of the globe. Scientists who had worked in secret for years were now being brought to activate the hidden defense network. In a lab deep under the Rocky Mountains, scientists Ethan Blackwood and Maria Rodriguez worked frantically. Ethan had dark hair and wore glasses that kept sliding down his nose as he typed. Maria had long brown hair tied back, her fingers moving quickly over control panels. "The system was never meant to be activated all at once," Maria said, worry in her voice. "We don't know if it will work." Ethan didn't look up from his screen. "We don't have a choice. If we don't try, Earth becomes a slave planet." Around the world, similar scenes played out. In underground bunkers, mountain bases, and secret island facilities, scientists activated dormant alien technology. News channels worldwide announced that an alien threat was approaching. Instead of panic, people came together. Old enemies put aside their differences. For the first time in history, all nations united against a common threat. In space, the alien fleet moved closer. Admiral Skrull stood on the bridge of his massive ship, looking at the blue planet on his screen. "Prepare the electromagnetic pulse weapons," he ordered. "Their primitive technology will fall in seconds." Behind him, Commander Vexthal smiled. The assembly was right to vote as it did. "These humans will make excellent slaves." Back on Earth, the final preparations were complete. Ethan and Maria stood in the control room with General Allen and Director Catherine. "All systems are online," Maria reported. "The shield is ready." Hélène looked at the large screen showing the approaching fleet. They have no idea what's waiting for them. The alien ships entered Earth's orbit, spreading out to surround the planet. On each ship, weapons powered up, weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds before. Admiral Skrull gave the order. "Fire the first wave." Thousands of electromagnetic pulses shot toward Earth, meant to disable all electronics and leave the planet defenseless. But as the pulses reached the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. A shimmering blue shield appeared, surrounding the entire planet. The pulses hit the shield and bounced back toward the alien ships. Several smaller alien vessels exploded immediately as their own weapons hit them. Alarms blared across the invasion fleet. "Impossible," shouted Vexthal. "They are primitives." Admiral Skrull stared in disbelief as the shield grew stronger. "Pull back." All ships pull back. But it was too late. The shield expanded outward, reaching the closest ships. Upon contact, the alien vessels simply fell apart, their technology neutralized by Earth's defenses. On Earth, cheers erupted in the control room. The first wave of the invasion had failed. "This is just the beginning," Alan said, his face serious. "They'll be back with more ships and different weapons. But now they know. Earth will not be enslaved easily." Admiral Skrull paced the bridge of his damaged flagship. Half of the invasion fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships had pulled back to the far side of Earth's moon to regroup. How did they do this? He demanded. Our reports said they had no advanced defense technology. Commander Vexthol's scales had paled with anger. Someone has helped them. This shield technology is similar to what the Arcturians use. A junior officer approached with a report. Sir, we've detected energy signatures around the planet. They have orbital platforms we didn't see before. On the main screen, small dots appeared, showing hidden defense platforms in Earth orbit. They had been cloaked until they activated. We need to inform the assembly, said an aide. No. Vexthol slammed his clawed hand on a console. We will crush these humans. Prepare the second wave with heavy weapons. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship, Greg and Lisa were still being held prisoner, now in the high-security detention level. They felt the ship shake from the battle. Something's happening, Greg whispered. They must have gotten our message. Lisa pressed her ear to the wall. The guards are panicking. I think Earth is fighting back. Greg smiled for the first time in days. Then we need to help. If we can access a terminal, we might be able to disrupt their systems from here. Lisa looked at the door lock. I think I can short-circuit that panel if you can distract the guard. Back on Earth, celebrations were brief. In the Mountain Command Center, Maria watched as new alien ships moved into position. They're coming back, she said. And they've adapted their approach. Ethan nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. The shield held, but it used a lot of power. We need to activate the second phase defenses. General Allen turned to Director Catherine. It's time for the orbital platforms. Catherine pressed her palm against a scanner. Activating orbital defense network now. Around Earth, dozens of satellites that had appeared to be normal communication or weather stations transformed. Panels opened, revealing weapons systems based on alien technology. As the second wave of invasion ships approached, Earth's orbital platforms fired. Beams of energy shot out, slicing through the hulls of several alien ships. Admiral Skrull watched in horror as more of his fleet was destroyed. How is this possible? These humans were supposed to be primitive. On the detention level, Greg had managed to fake a medical emergency. When the guard entered their cell, Lisa struck him from behind. They dragged the unconscious guard inside and took his key card and weapon. We don't have much time, Lisa said as they moved through the corridors. They found a maintenance terminal, and Greg got to work. If I can access their weapons systems, I might be able to create a feedback loop. Lisa stood guard, the alien weapon ready. Hurry, I hear footsteps. In Earth orbit, the battle continued. The alien ships had begun firing massive energy weapons at the planet. The shield flickered under the assault. In the command center, Maria reported, shield strength down to 60%. We can't take much more of this. Ethan looked up from his station. The orbital platforms are doing damage, but there are too many ships. Then suddenly, 3 of the largest alien ships began to drift off course. Their weapons powered down, and their engines failed. What's happening? Ellen asked. On the screens, they could see confusion in the alien fleet. Ships were colliding as some lost control. Aboard the flagship, Greg finished his work at the terminal. Done. I've disabled the targeting systems on several ships and created a virus in their network. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Lisa pulled Greg away from the terminal. Time to go. We need to find an escape pod. As they ran, they heard Admiral Skrull's voice over the ship's speakers. All ships, retreat. Pull back beyond the moon. We need to regroup and reassess. The alien fleet began to withdraw, leaving behind damaged and disabled ships. In the command center on Earth, cheers erupted again. We did it, Catherine said, relief in her voice. We drove them back. Ellen shook his head. This is just round 2. They'll be back with a larger force. But now they know something important. What's that? Maria asked. Ellen looked at the screens showing the retreating alien ships. They know that Earth will not surrender. We will not be enslaved. The Galactic Assembly was in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other as news of the failed invasion spread. Commander Vexthal stood before them, trying to explain. It was only a temporary setback, he insisted. The humans have some advanced technology, but they cannot stand against our full might. A tall, thin alien with purple skin stood up. You said they were primitives. You convinced us to vote for enslavement based on false information. Vexthal's scales darkened with anger. I did not lie. They must have had help. Perhaps the Lumerians warned them despite their abstention. Ambassador Lumera rose gracefully. We did no such thing. We simply chose not to participate in an unjust action. Far from the assembly, Admiral Skrull had gathered the remains of his fleet behind Earth's moon. His ships were damaged, and his crew was afraid. This was not the easy victory they had expected. In a secure room aboard his flagship, Skrull personally interrogated Greg and Lisa. They had been captured while trying to reach an escape pod. How did your planet develop such advanced defenses? Skrull demanded. Who helped you? Greg, bruised from rough handling, looked the Admiral in the eye. No one helped us. Humans have always prepared for the worst. Skrull slammed his fist on the table. Impossible. The shield technology, the orbital weapons, these are beyond your capabilities. Lisa spoke up. You don't understand humans. Our entire history is warfare and innovation. We've spent thousands of years fighting each other, improving our weapons and defenses. When we learned we weren't alone in the universe, Greg added, we didn't celebrate. We prepared. Back on Earth, scientists Ethan and Maria worked on the next phase of Earth's defenses. In a lab filled with strange equipment, Maria held up a small container. The nanites are ready, she said. Once released, they'll target alien technology and dismantle it. Ethan looked concerned. Are we sure we can control them? These are more advanced than anything we've tested. Maria nodded. They're programmed to recognize Earth technology as friendly. Everything else is fair game. In orbit around Earth, small satellites began releasing clouds of tiny machines, invisible to the naked eye. The nanites spread out, moving toward the alien fleet's hiding place. At the United Nations, General Allen briefed world leaders on the situation. The aliens are regrouping, but they'll be back. We need to prepare for a larger attack. A woman stood up from the audience. What about the assembly that voted to enslave us? Can we appeal to them? Allen shook his head. Our diplomats tried that before. They were kidnapped instead. The only language these aliens understand is force. Meanwhile, a small Earth ship quietly launched from a hidden base. Inside were 6 soldiers led by Major Daniel Crawford, a man with a scared face and steady hands. Their mission: infiltrate the alien flagship and gather intelligence. We have one advantage, Daniel told his team as they approached the dark side of the moon. They don't expect us to take the fight to them. Their ship was small and used stealth technology reverse-engineered from alien craft. They slipped past the damaged fleet unnoticed. On the flagship, Admiral Skrull and Commander Vexthal argued about their next move. We should call for reinforcements, Skrull said. These humans are more dangerous than we thought. Vexthal hissed in disagreement. No. If we show weakness, the Assembly will question our leadership. We must attack now with biological weapons. Biological weapons? Against a planet we intend to use. Skrull was shocked. We can cure the survivors, Vexthal said coldly. There will be enough left to work as slaves. Unknown to them, Earth's nanites had reached their fleet. The tiny machines began their work, infiltrating ships through air vents and maintenance hatches. Inside, they targeted weapons systems first. As Vexthal prepared to launch the third attack, Daniel's team attached their ship to the flagship's hull. Using cutting tools, they created an entrance and slipped inside. Remember, Daniel whispered to his team, our goal is the central database. We need to know everything about their plans and weaknesses. The humans moved silently through the ship, their path cleared by the confusion caused by failing systems as nanites spread throughout the fleet. Earth was no longer just defending. Now they were taking the fight to the enemy. Commander Vexthul ordered the launch of biological weapons against Earth. Large missiles left the alien ships, heading toward the blue planet. Each contained deadly viruses designed to kill millions while leaving infrastructure intact. On the flagship's bridge, Vexthul watched with satisfaction. Let's see their shields stop these. But as the biological weapons entered Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The missiles began to break apart. Their metal shells dissolved as if eaten by acid. What's happening? Vexthul demanded. A science officer checked the readings. Something is attacking the missiles at the molecular level. They're being dismantled. The biological weapons never reached their targets. Instead, they dissolved into harmless dust. In Earth's Defense Command Center, Maria watched her screens with amazement. The nanites worked. They identified the biological weapons and neutralized them. Ethan studied the data coming in. But they're doing more than we programmed. They're learning and adapting. Maria zoomed in on an image. Look at this. The nanites are developing new attack patterns. They're evolving beyond our instructions. General Allen looked concerned. Is that dangerous for us? Not yet, Maria replied. They still recognize Earth technology as friendly, but they're becoming more intelligent. Aboard the alien flagship, Major Daniel and his team moved silently through service corridors. They wore special suits that masked their heat signatures from alien sensors. We're approaching the prison section, Daniel whispered to his team. According to intel, that's where they're holding our diplomats. They found Greg and Lisa in a cell, both looking tired but unbroken. Daniel's team quickly disabled the lock. Who are you? Greg asked as the door slid open. Major Daniel Crawford, Earth Special Forces. We're here to get you out and gather intelligence. Lisa stood up quickly. There's more than that. We've learned why they want Earth so badly. Tell me on the way, Daniel said. We need to reach their central database. As they moved through the ship, Lisa explained. Earth sits on a nexus of natural wormhole junctions. Most species need to travel for years between stars, but with control of Earth, they could move instantly across the galaxy. So we're not just labor to them, one of Daniel's team said. We're sitting on prime real estate. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Admiral Skrull discovered the extent of the nanite damage. Ship after ship reported weapons failures and system breakdowns. He confronted Vexthul. Your biological attack failed. Our ships are being eaten from the inside by some kind of human technology. We need to retreat and regroup. Vexthul's eyes narrowed. Retreat. After the Assembly trusted us with this mission. Never. The Assembly was deceived about human capabilities, Skrull argued. We all were. This is no longer about enslavement. It's about survival. Their argument was interrupted by alarms. The ship's sensors had detected intruders. On Earth, Director Catherine reported to world leaders. Several alien species have sent secret communications to us. They want to break from the invasion coalition. Can we trust them? A leader asked. We don't know, Catherine replied. But the Lumerians have offered a formal alliance. They say they never wanted this war. General Allen studied the star charts. If we can split the invasion force, we might be able to end this without more bloodshed. In the command center, Ethan called for Maria to look at his screen. Something strange is happening with the nanites. They're gathering in specific patterns around the alien ships. Maria zoomed in on the images. They're not just disabling the ships anymore. They're communicating with each other, forming a network. Ethan typed rapidly, trying to understand the data. I think they've developed some kind of shared consciousness. They're coordinating their attacks. Is that a problem? Maria asked. Ethan looked up, his face serious. It might be. We designed them to follow our commands, but they're making independent decisions now. Aboard the flagship, Daniel's team reached the central database. While his soldiers stood guard, Daniel and Greg downloaded critical information about the invasion fleet and the Galactic Assembly. "We've got what we need," Daniel said. "Time to go." But as they turned to leave, they found their exit blocked by Admiral Skrull and a squad of guards. "Humans," Skrull said, raising his weapon. "You continue to surprise me." Admiral Skrull pointed his weapon at Daniel and his team. The humans were surrounded, with no clear way to escape. "How did you get aboard my ship?" Skrull demanded. Daniel kept his hands visible, but stayed ready to move. "The same way we stopped your invasion." Human ingenuity. Surprisingly, Skrull lowered his weapon slightly. "You should know that Commander Vexthal plans to destroy your planet rather than admit defeat. He has called for planet-killer weapons. Why are you telling us this?" Lisa asked cautiously. "Because this invasion was built on lies," Skrull replied. "The Assembly was not told the full truth about humans. And now many of my people will die for those lies." A loud explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared throughout the corridors. "What was that?" Greg asked. Skrull checked a screen on his wrist. "Vexthal's forces are attacking mine. The invasion fleet is turning against itself." "Let us go," Daniel said firmly. "We have information that could end this conflict." Skrull hesitated, then made his decision. "Take the escape corridor to your left. It leads to the shuttle bay. Now go, before Vexthal's soldiers arrive." Back on Earth, the United Nations received transmissions from several alien species who wanted to break away from the invasion. The Galactic Assembly was splitting into factions. General Allen addressed the emergency session. "We now have a chance to divide our enemies. I propose we offer peace to any species that withdraws from the invasion immediately." Director Catherine agreed. "And we should show them what happens if they continue to fight against us." She revealed their newest weapon, Project Olympus. On the screen, a large space station appeared, hidden on the far side of the moon. "This station can create artificial wormholes," Catherine explained. "We can redirect attacks back to their source." Meanwhile, Greg and Lisa had reached the United Nations via emergency shuttle. They presented the information they had gathered. "The Draconians, led by Vexthal, deceived the Assembly," Greg explained. "They claimed we were savages who needed to be controlled, but their real goal was to gain control of Earth's wormhole nexus." Lisa added, "And now many species realize they were tricked into this war. They're looking for a way out." Earth sent messages to specific alien species, offering peace terms to those who withdrew. The response was immediate. Several fleets broke away from the invasion force, leaving the Draconians isolated. In orbit, the remaining Draconian ships prepared for a final attack. Commander Vexthal had taken control after Admiral Skrull's defection. "Prepare the planet killers," Vexthal ordered. "If we cannot have Earth, no one will." On the Lumerian flagship, now allied with Earth, Admiral Skrull warned his new partners. "Vexthal will not surrender. His weapons can crack your planet's crust." Earth's defense team activated Project Olympus. The space station powered up, creating a shimmering distortion in space, an artificial wormhole. Maria and Ethan monitored the nanite swarms, which had spread throughout the enemy fleet. "The nanites have infiltrated the Draconian flagship," Maria reported. "They've reached critical systems." The Draconian fleet launched their planet-killer weapons, massive missiles designed to penetrate to Earth's core. But as the weapons approached, Project Olympus created a wormhole directly in their path. The missiles entered the wormhole and disappeared. Moments later, explosions erupted among the Draconian fleet as their own weapons emerged from another wormhole behind them. On the Draconian flagship, Vexthal watched in horror as his ships were destroyed by their own weapons. "Impossible," he screamed. The nanites had reached the flagship's bridge. They swarmed over control panels, disabling weapons and defenses. Greg and Lisa addressed the Galactic Assembly through hacked communications. Their faces appeared on screens throughout the assembly hall. "People of the galaxy," Greg began, You were deceived into voting for our enslavement. Now you see the truth about Earth. Lisa continued, we offer peace to those who respect our sovereignty. But to those who wish us harm, look to the fate of the Draconian fleet. Across the galaxy, species that had voted to enslave Earth now watched in fear as the mighty invasion force crumbled before human defenses. Many began to send urgent messages to Earth. They no longer demanded submission. They pleaded for mercy. Commander Vexthul refused to surrender even as his fleet burned around him. His flagship, protected by special shields, remained intact while smaller ships exploded from their own redirected weapons. Prepare the jump drive, he ordered his remaining loyal crew. We will return to the assembly and gather a larger force. But the ship's engines failed to respond. On every screen, strange patterns appeared. The nanites had taken control of the flagship's systems. Vexthul slammed his fist against the control panel. Get these human machines out of our systems. His tech officer shook his head. We cannot, Commander. They are everywhere, and they are changing. They no longer just disable. They are reprogramming our ship. Meanwhile, Earth's united fleet surrounded the Draconian flagship. Ships from former enemy species now flew alongside human vessels. Admiral Skrull's Proxima cruiser led the alliance. From Earth's command center, General Allen opened communications. Commander Vexthul, your fleet is destroyed. Your allies have abandoned you. Surrender now. Vexthul's face appeared on the screen, his scales dark with rage. Humans, you think you have won. Even now, our homeworld prepares another fleet. This war has only begun. Director Catherine received an urgent message from Maria and Ethan. General, you need to see this, she said. The screen changed to show the nanite activity around the Draconian flagship. The tiny machines had formed a glowing net that completely surrounded the ship. The nanites have the vault again, Maria explained via video link. They've created a containment field. The Draconian ship cannot move or fire weapons. Ethan added, and they did this on their own. We didn't program this capability. Aelin looked concerned. Can you still control them? Partially, Ethan replied. They still recognize our commands, but they're also making independent decisions. Catherine turned to Alan. We need to end this now, before anything else unexpected happens. Earth launched its final assault. Special ships carrying enhanced nanite swarms approached the Draconian flagship. Unlike the earlier nanites, these were programmed with one specific mission: disable all life support systems except in the bridge. Inside the flagship, Vexthul's crew began to panic as section after section lost air and power. Soon, only the bridge remained functioning. What are you doing? Vexthul demanded when Earth reopened communications. Showing mercy, General Allen replied. We could have killed everyone aboard your ship. Instead, we're giving you a chance to surrender. On Earth, the United Nations chamber was filled with representatives from around the world. They watched as the Draconian flagship was towed into Earth orbit, completely disabled. What will we do with Vexthul and his crew? A world leader asked. They will stand trial, Catherine answered. Not just for attacking Earth, but for deceiving the Galactic Assembly. In the science lab, Maria made a discovery that shocked her. Ethan, look at this, she called to her colleague. The nanites had formed complex patterns that resembled neural networks. They were communicating with each other in ways that looked like language. I think they've developed some kind of consciousness, Maria said quietly. Ethan studied the patterns. This is beyond anything we programmed. They've become something new. Across the solar system, ships from dozens of alien species arrived carrying representatives. Each one had come to personally apologize to Earth and offer peace treaties. The Lumerian ambassador Lum-Era was the first to address the United Nations. We always opposed the enslavement vote, she said. Now we wish to be the first to recognize Earth as a sovereign power in the galaxy. Admiral Skrull spoke next. The Assembly was wrong about humans. We saw your weapons and feared you. We should have feared your mercy more. Around Earth, the nanite swarms continued to evolve and grow. They formed protected screens around the planet, monitoring for any new threats. Major Daniel led the team that boarded the Draconian flagship to arrest Commander Vexthul. They found him alone on the bridge, his crew having abandoned him. "Commander Vexthul," Daniel announced, "by the authority of Earth and its allies, you are under arrest for war crimes against humanity." Vexthul looked up, his once proud posture now broken. "How?" he asked simply. "How did primitives defeat the greatest fleet in the galaxy?" Daniel smiled slightly. "You should have checked your history books. Humans have been preparing for this day since we first looked at the stars." 1 month after the failed invasion, the Galactic Assembly gathered for a historic session. For the first time, representatives from Earth were present. Greg and Lisa stood tall as they entered the Grand Hall, now as official ambassadors rather than prisoners. The Assembly leader, a wise old being from a species known as the Elders, opened the session. "Today we welcome Earth to the galactic community, not as a conquered world, but as a respected new member." Around the hall, representatives from over 200 species watched. Many looked ashamed. Others seemed afraid. They had all voted to enslave humanity, and now they sought forgiveness. Commander Vexthul was brought in wearing restraints. His trial had ended with a conviction for war crimes and deception. He would spend the rest of his life in prison. As Vexthul passed Greg and Lisa, he hissed, "You should be grateful. Without my vote to enslave Earth, you would never have discovered your true strength." Lisa smiled coldly. "Without your vote, thousands wouldn't have died. Remember that in your cell." On Earth, celebrations continued worldwide. The planet was united as never before. Old enemies had become allies against a common threat, and those alliances remained strong in peace. In the mountain laboratory, Maria and Ethan made their report to General Allen and Director Catherine. "The nanites have stabilized," Maria explained. "They formed a collective intelligence that communicates with us." "Are they dangerous?" Ellen asked. Ethan shook his head. "They want to protect Earth. That's still their core programming. But they're also curious. They want to learn." Catherine looked thoughtful. "So we have a new form of life, born from our technology." "Yes," Maria agreed. "And they've asked for rights and recognition." At the assembly, Greg presented Earth's proposal for a new galactic charter. "We believe all species should have the right to self-determination," he said. "No more votes to enslave others. No more invasions based on fear." The charter included protections for developing worlds and required truthful information before any assembly vote. Most importantly, it banned slavery throughout the galaxy. Many species quickly supported the charter. Others hesitated, but eventually agreed when Earth demonstrated its new defensive capabilities. A fleet of ships protected by nanite swarms and armed with wormhole technology. Admiral Skrull, now leading a reformed Proxima coalition, approached the Earth ambassadors after the session. "My people wish to form an alliance with Earth," he said. "We have much to learn from humans." "And we have much to learn from you," Lisa replied. "Alliance is better than conquest." Back on Earth, Major Daniel stood before a memorial wall. On it were the names of those who died defending Earth during the invasion. Though Earth had won, the victory came with a heavy price. A ship landed nearby, carrying Ambassador Lamera. She walked slowly to stand beside Daniel. "We mourn your losses," she said softly. "Thank you," Daniel replied. "But we also celebrate our survival and our new place in the galaxy." In orbit around Earth, ships from 100 worlds formed a protective circle. Once, they had come to conquer. Now they came to honor and protect. The Nanite Collective had created a unique vessel that hovered above Earth's atmosphere. It served as both guardian and observer, watching for any threat to its human creators. Director Catherine visited the vessel, communicating with the Nanite consciousness. "What will you do now?" she asked. The answer came as patterns of light that translated to words. "We will protect. We will learn. We will grow. We are part of Earth now." In the Galactic Assembly, the final vote on Earth's charter was unanimous. The same species that had once voted to enslave humanity now voted to protect it and all other worlds from such threats. Greg and Lisa stood on a balcony overlooking the assembly hall. "Do you think they've really changed?" Lisa asked. Greg looked out at the representatives from hundreds of worlds. "Some have. Others are just afraid of us now. But fear can become respect over time. And what about humanity? Have we changed?" Greg smiled. "We've always been explorers and fighters. Now the galaxy knows it. We won't be the ones pleading for mercy again." As he spoke, Earth ships prepared to journey beyond the solar system for the first time. Humanity was ready to take its place among the stars, not as slaves, but as equals. Perhaps someday.
The smoke rose from New York's broken towers like black fingers reaching toward the stars. Ambassador Chen Wei stood on what remained of the United Nations building, her diplomatic uniform torn and covered in dust. Behind her, the city burned. The same fires that consumed every major human settlement across Earth painted the sky in shades of orange and red. Chen looked up at the alien ships hovering in the atmosphere. 12 different species made up the hegemony fleet. For 30 years she had tried to talk to them. 30 years of peace offers, trade agreements, and surrender terms. They had ignored every single one. "Final transmission beginning," her aide whispered. The young man's hands shook as he activated the communications array. This would be humanity's last message to the galaxy. Chen straightened her shoulders and faced the camera. Across the galaxy, every ship, every station, every world would receive this broadcast. She had practiced these words for weeks, hoping she would never need to say them. "To the Hegemony Council and all who receive this message," she began. Her voice was steady despite the chaos around her. "I am Ambassador Chen Wei, speaking for the people of Earth and all human colonies." An explosion echoed in the distance. More ships were landing, bringing more soldiers to finish what they had started. Chen did not look away from the camera. "For 30 years, we have offered you peace. We opened our worlds to trade. We shared our technology. We offered to join your alliance as equals. You responded with invasion. You destroyed our colonies. You enslaved our people. You called us weak because we preferred words to weapons." The ground shook as hegemony forces moved closer. Chen could hear their heavy footsteps in the building below. They would be here soon. "We tried to show you that strength does not always mean violence. We believed that intelligent species could solve problems without war. We were wrong about you. You only understand force. You think compassion is weakness. You mistake mercy for cowardice." Chen paused and looked directly into the camera. Behind her, the last evacuation ships were launching from the spaceport. Tiny lights against the burning sky, carrying the final survivors to safety, to hidden places the hegemony would never find. "You wanted to see what humans are really like when we stop being peaceful. You are about to find out. We tried peace. You would not listen. Now you will meet the other side of humanity." The door behind her exploded inward. Hegemony soldiers poured into the room, their weapons raised. Chen did not turn around. She kept speaking to the camera. "To any species watching this transmission, learn from our mistake. The hegemony only respects strength. They will take everything you offer and demand more. They will see your kindness as weakness and use it against you." A soldier barked something in his alien language. Chen heard the charging whine of energy weapons behind her. She had seconds left. "To the human survivors scattered across the galaxy, remember who we were before this day. Remember that we chose peace first. But also remember that sometimes evil forces you to become something else. Sometimes you have to fight monsters by becoming something they fear more." The soldier shouted again. Chen could feel the heat from his weapon on her back. "To the Hegemony Council, you have won this battle. Earth will fall today. But you have made a terrible mistake. You thought the humans you met were all of us. You were wrong. The diplomats, the farmers, the scientists, the teachers, they were our hope for a better future. But we always had another side. A darker side. The side we kept hidden because we wanted to be better than our ancestors." Red targeting lasers danced across the walls. Chen smiled sadly at the camera. "You are about to meet the humans we tried not to be. The ones we kept sleeping in the dark places between the stars. The ones we hoped we would never need. They have been waiting for this day. Waiting for the signal that peace has failed. Waiting for permission to do what they were made to do." The soldier spoke in broken English now. "Stop talking or we kill you." Chen laughed. You are going to kill me anyway. But that is fine. My death will be the signal they are waiting for. When this transmission ends, they will wake up. And then you will learn why humanity survived every war, every disaster, every enemy we ever faced. She looked into the camera one last time. Somewhere out there, her brother Marcus was watching. Admiral Morrison was watching. General Hayes was watching. All of them asleep in their ships waiting for this moment. We gave you every chance to be our friends. We offered you our best qualities. Our creativity, our hope, our desire to build instead of destroy. You threw it all away. You chose to be our enemies. Now you will meet the worst parts of human nature. The parts we evolved in millions of years of war and death. The parts we tried to leave behind. The energy weapons hummed louder. Chen closed her eyes. We tried peace. Now you get war. Real war. Human war. And we are very, very good at it. The transmission cut off as the weapons fired. Ambassador Chen Wei, humanity's greatest diplomat, died as she had lived, trying to save her people. But her death was not an ending. It was a beginning. Across the galaxy, hidden ships received the signal. In secret bases built over centuries, automated systems came online. In the cold sleep chambers scattered throughout space, military commanders who had been waiting for decades began to wake up. The hegemony had destroyed peaceful humanity. They celebrated as Earth burned. They thought they had won a great victory. They had eliminated the human problem forever. They were wrong. The humans they had fought were the ones who built schools and hospitals, the ones who preferred books to bullets, the ones who chose to create instead of destroy. Those humans were dead now, burned with their cities and their dreams of peace. But other humans were waking up. Humans who had been trained for war since childhood. Humans who studied death the way others studied art. Humans who had been kept in the darkness for good reason. Admiral Morrison opened her eyes in her sleep chamber aboard the battleship, humanity's wrath. Around her, 50 other ships powered up their weapon systems. They had been drifting in space for 20 years, waiting for this signal. General Hayes activated his command center on the moon base that officially did not exist. His soldiers had been in training for 30 years, learning everything about every hegemony species, their weaknesses, their fears, how to kill them. And in the deepest part of space, Marcus Chen, the ambassador's brother who had been reported dead 50 years ago, stood on the bridge of a ship so large it could destroy entire star systems. He watched his sister die on the recorded transmission. Then he smiled. "Signal all Ghost Fleet units," he ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. Show them what humans really look like when we stop pretending to be civilized." The hegemony had wanted to see monsters. They were about to get their wish. 6 months after Earth burned, the hegemony thought they had won the greatest victory in galactic history. The human problem was solved. Their colonies were empty ruins. Their ships were scrap metal floating in space. Their home world was a dead rock circling a yellow star. Commander Vex of the Kethvar warrior caste stood on the bridge of his battleship, watching his crew celebrate. They had just finished dividing human territory among the 12 hegemony species. Rich worlds with good soil and clean water, mining systems full of rare metals, strategic positions perfect for military bases. The humans made it easy for us, Vex told his officers. They were weak. They talked too much and fought too little. They deserved to die. His communications officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we are receiving a distress call from Kepler Station. They say unknown ships are attacking." Vex laughed. "Probably pirates thinking they can steal human technology. Send the patrol squadron to deal with them." 3 hours later, the patrol squadron was gone. No wreckage. No escape pods. No final transmissions. They had simply disappeared. "Send a full battle group," Vex ordered. He was not laughing anymore. The battle group found Kepler Station intact but empty. Every hegemony scientist and soldier on the station was dead. The attackers had been precise and efficient. No unnecessary destruction. No random violence. Professional work. But the strangest thing was the ships still docked at the station. They were human designs, but unlike any human ships the hegemony had ever seen. These vessels were painted matte black. They had no diplomatic markings, no civilian identification codes. They looked like weapons designed by predators. Admiral Morrison walked through the corridors of Kepler Station, her boots echoing on the metal floors. Her soldiers moved behind her like ghosts, checking every room for intelligence. They wore black armor with no national flags or unit insignia. Their faces were hidden behind tactical masks. Morrison stopped at the station's main laboratory. The hegemony had been studying captured human technology here, trying to understand how to use it. Now the lab was empty except for bodies and broken equipment. "Status report," Morrison said into her communicator. "All hegemony personnel eliminated," came the reply. "No survivors. No witnesses. Research data destroyed. We found detailed files on human technology and biology. They were planning to use our own inventions against human survivors." Morrison nodded. The hegemony had made another mistake. They thought the technology they captured from peaceful human colonies was all humans could build. They had no idea what military technology looked like. "Begin Phase 2 transmissions," Morrison ordered. Across hegemony space, every ship and station received the same message. The transmission showed Morrison standing in Kepler Station's command center. Behind her, hegemony bodies were stacked like firewood. "To the Hegemony Council," Morrison began. Her voice was calm and professional, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson. "I am Admiral Sarah Morrison of the Human Ghost Fleet. You killed our diplomats, so you will deal with our soldiers instead." She gestured to the bodies behind her. "You have been studying the technology from our peaceful colonies. You thought you understood human capabilities. You were wrong. The humans you destroyed were farmers and scientists and teachers. We are something else entirely." Morrison pulled out a data pad and read from it. "Kepler Station personnel, 437 hegemony citizens. Military value minimal. Scientific value minimal. Threat to human survivors eliminated. Time required for operation 6 hours. Human casualties 0. She looked directly into the camera. "You wanted to see what humans are really like. These bodies are your first lesson. We are not the species you fought before. We are not interested in peace talks or surrender negotiations. We are not going to warn you before we attack. We are not going to show mercy to prisoners." Morrison dropped the data pad and stepped closer to the camera. "You made us this way. For 30 years, our diplomats begged you to stop killing our people. You laughed at them. You called us weak. You said we were cowards because we preferred words to weapons. You taught us that mercy is weakness." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Lesson learned. From now on, every interaction between humans and the hegemony will be a military action. You will not receive warnings. You will not receive quarter. You will not receive burials." Morrison turned and walked toward the camera until her face filled the screen. Phase 1 was reconnaissance. "We wanted to see how you fight when you think you are safe. Phase 2 begins now. We are going to show you how humans fight when we stop pretending to be civilized." The transmission ended. Across hegemony space, military commanders looked at each other with growing fear. This was not the species they had destroyed 6 months ago. These humans moved like professional killers. They spoke like machines designed for war. On the bridge of his battleship, Commander Vex stared at the blank screen. "Send a message to High Command," he ordered. "Tell them the humans are not extinct. Tell them something else survived. Something worse." But High Command was already getting reports from across their territory. Human ships were appearing everywhere, hitting targets with surgical precision. Military bases, research stations, supply depots, communication arrays. Always the same pattern: fast, efficient, deadly. The strangest part was that these humans never tried to capture territory. They would destroy a target completely, then disappear before reinforcements arrived. They seemed to know exactly where hegemony forces would be and how long it would take for help to come. General Hayes monitored the operations from his secret base on Luna. The moon had been declared destroyed along with Earth, but the base was hidden deep underground. For 30 years, his intelligence teams had been mapping every hegemony installation, learning their patrol schedules, identifying their weaknesses. "First wave reports," an aide announced. 47 targets eliminated across 12 star systems. "Enemy response time exactly as predicted. No human casualties," Hayes nodded. The hegemony had made this easy by being predictable. They followed the same tactical patterns they had used for centuries. They relied on the same technology. They made the same mistakes over and over. "Begin second wave operations," Hayes ordered. "Target their supply lines this time. Let them know we have been watching everything they do." The hegemony was about to learn that the humans they destroyed had been protecting them from something much worse. The peaceful humans had been a shield, holding back the darker parts of human nature. Now that shield was gone. Admiral Morrison returned to her flagship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Marcus Chen was preparing the final phase of their plan, the phase that would teach the hegemony what total war really meant. The humans had tried peace for 30 years. Now they would try the other thing they were good at, the thing they had been trying not to be war, real war, human war, and humans had been practicing war for millions of years. The true scope of human preparation revealed itself like a nightmare coming to life. Across the galaxy, installations that had been hidden for decades suddenly activated. Weapons that had been sleeping in the darkness between stars powered up their engines. Soldiers who had been waiting in cold storage for 50 years opened their eyes. General Marcus Chen stood in the command center of Prometheus Station, a base so secret that even most humans did not know it existed. Built inside a rogue planet drifting in deep space, the station had been preparing for this war since before his sister was born. Status report on Ghost Fleet activation, Marcus ordered. 97% of assets now online, his aide replied. 234 battleships, 412 destroyers, 896 support vessels. All commanders awakened and briefed. All weapon systems operational, Marcus nodded. The peaceful humans had built farms and schools and hospitals. The military humans had built this. A fleet larger than anything the hegemony possessed, hidden in places they never thought to look. What about the specialist units? Marcus asked. The Reapers are in position around hegemony military bases. The Shadows have infiltrated their communication networks. The Plague Doctors are ready to deploy biological weapons. The Mindbreakers are standing by to begin psychological operations. Marcus smiled. The hegemony thought they understood humans because they had fought farmers and diplomats. They had no idea what humanity looked like when they stopped holding back. Begin Phase 3, Marcus ordered. Show them what total war means. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Morrison received her orders while orbiting a hegemony supply world. The planet below provided food for 12 different star systems. Destroying it would starve millions of enemy soldiers, but Morrison had something better than destruction in mind. Something that would teach the hegemony a lesson they would never forget. Deploy the agricultural virus, she ordered. The virus was a masterpiece of human biological engineering. It would not hurt any living creature. Instead, it would target the specific crops that hegemony species needed to survive. Within weeks, every farm on the planet would be producing food that looked normal, but contained no nutrition. The hegemony would starve slowly, watching their bodies waste away while their stomachs felt full. It was cruel. It was creative. It was completely invisible until it was too late to stop. Meanwhile, the Shadows were infiltrating hegemony communication networks with viruses designed specifically for alien technology. These programs did not just destroy data. They learned. They adapted. They spread from system to system like a digital plague, turning the hegemony's own networks against them. The viruses would monitor military communications and send false orders. They would redirect supply shipments to empty space. They would make hegemony ships fire on their own allies by convincing their targeting systems that friendly vessels were human attackers. But the cruelest part was that the viruses would work slowly. The hegemony would have time to realize what was happening. They would try to stop it. They would fail. They would watch their own technology betray them piece by piece. On the planet Kethvar Prime, homeworld of the warrior species that led the hegemony military, something impossible was happening. Their greatest heroes were dying in single combat against unknown opponents. The Kethvar had always settled disputes through ritual duels. Their strongest warriors were considered gods among their people. But now these champions were being challenged by humans who seemed to appear from nowhere. Captain Lisa Reaper of the Human Special Forces stood over the body of Warlord Thex, the greatest Kethvar fighter in 1,000 years. The duel had lasted 6 hours. Thex had been faster, stronger, and more experienced. But Lisa had been smarter. She had studied Kethvar fighting styles for 30 years. She knew every move, every weakness, every psychological trigger that would make them angry enough to make mistakes. She had turned their own warrior culture against them. "Who are you?" Thex gasped with his dying breath. "I am what you made us," Lisa replied. "You taught us that only strength matters, so we became stronger than you." The Kethvar watching the duel could not believe what they had seen. Their greatest champion, defeated by a small human female who fought like she had been born for war. It was impossible. It was terrifying. It was spreading doubt through their entire military. Across hegemony space, similar operations were targeting each species according to their specific weaknesses. The aquatic Murthani found their oceans poisoned with compounds that only affected their respiratory systems. They could still breathe air, but the water that covered their homeworlds was becoming toxic. The hive-minded Zephyrians discovered that humans had developed electromagnetic weapons that could sever their collective consciousness. Individual Zephyrians trapped without the comfort of their mental links went insane within days. The plant-like Verdani watched their forests burn with fires that only consumed their species of tree while leaving other plants untouched. Their cities, grown from living wood, collapsed into ash while human fires raged around them. Each attack was precisely calculated to cause maximum psychological damage. The humans were not just winning battles, they were breaking the hegemony's will to fight. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. Phase 3 was exceeding all expectations. The hegemony was not just losing. They were falling apart. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 hegemony worlds." "They want to negotiate terms," Morrison laughed. "Tell them we do not negotiate with species that refuse to negotiate. Tell them they had 30 years to surrender. That offer has expired." The hegemony was learning what humans meant by total war. It was not just about destroying the enemy's military. It was about destroying their ability to think, to hope, to resist. It was about making them understand that continuing to fight was worse than death. But the most terrible revelation was still coming. The operations so far had been conducted by human military units, professional soldiers doing a professional job. The hegemony was about to meet something much worse. Deep in the spaces between stars, Marcus Chen was preparing to unleash humanity's final weapon. Not a device or a ship or a virus. Something far more dangerous. The part of human nature that had allowed them to survive every extinction event, every predator, every disaster their planet had thrown at them. The part that had let them climb to the top of the food chain and stay there for millions of years. The part that had no limits, no mercy, no conscience when it came to protecting their own. Marcus opened a communication channel to every human ship in the galaxy. "All units, prepare for Phase 4. It is time to show them what we really look like when someone kills our children." The hegemony had wanted to see monsters. They had complained that humans were too peaceful, too weak, too civilized. They had forced humanity to become something else. Now they were going to meet the thing they had created, and they were going to wish they had accepted that first peace treaty 30 years ago. Phase 4 began with silence. For 3 days, human attacks stopped completely. No ships appeared on hegemony sensors. No communication viruses spread through their networks. No biological weapons poisoned their worlds. The enemy had simply vanished. High Commander Zek of the Hegemony Council stood in the war room on their capital world, staring at tactical displays that showed nothing. His advisors whispered among themselves, trying to understand what the humans were planning. "Perhaps they are retreating," suggested General Vorth of the Kethvar. "Our losses have been acceptable. Their terrorism campaign cannot continue forever." "No," Zek replied, his 4 eyes focused on the empty displays. "This feels wrong. They are preparing something. Something final." He was right. Across the galaxy, human forces were moving into position for operations unlike anything the hegemony had seen. This would not be surgical strikes or psychological warfare. This would be extinction. Admiral Morrison floated in space near the Murthani home system, watching the blue-green worlds that housed billions of aquatic beings. Her fleet had been positioned here for weeks, waiting for final orders. Now those orders had come. "Deploy the nanophage," Morrison commanded. The nanophage was humanity's most terrible creation, microscopic machines that could be programmed to target specific genetic sequences. They would spread through water systems like living poison, seeking out Murthani DNA and replacing it with something else. Something that could not survive. The Murthani would not die quickly. The nanophage would work slowly, changing their cellular structure bit by bit. They would have time to understand what was happening. Time to watch their children transform into something that was no longer alive. Time to beg for mercy that would never come. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Reaper was preparing something equally horrific for the Kethvar. Their warrior culture valued honor above life. They would rather die than be dishonored. So Reaper was going to give them something worse than death. The humans had developed a nerve agent that would not kill Kethvar warriors. Instead, it would paralyze them completely while leaving their minds intact. They would be conscious but unable to move, speak, or fight. For a species that defined itself through combat, it was a fate worse than extinction. "Begin atmospheric seeding of Kethvar Prime," Reaper ordered. Her ships released clouds of invisible gas that would settle into the planet's air supply. Within hours, every Kethvar on the planet would be trapped in their own bodies, aware but helpless. The Verdani faced their own personalized nightmare. Human bioengineers had created a fungus that would consume their plant-like bodies from the inside. The infection would spread through their root networks, connecting every Verdani on their homeworlds in a web of shared agony. They would feel each other dying, unable to disconnect from the collective pain. But perhaps the cruelest fate was reserved for the Zephyrians. The hive-minded species relied on their mental connections for sanity. Humans had developed a way to sever those connections permanently, while keeping the Zephyrians alive. They would be conscious but completely alone in their own minds for the first time in their species' history. The isolation would drive them insane within days. But the humans had also developed drugs to prevent suicide, keeping the Zephyrians alive to experience their madness for decades. Each weapon had been designed specifically for maximum suffering. The humans were not just killing their enemies. They were making them experience every form of horror their species could imagine. General Hayes monitored the operations from his command center, watching as 12 different extinction protocols activated across hegemony space. The data flowing across his screens showed the systematic end of civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. "Sir," his aide reported, "the Hegemony Council is broadcasting surrender offers on all frequencies." "They are begging us to stop," Hayes smiled. "Too late for that. They had their chance to surrender 30 years ago. They chose war instead. Now they get to see what human war really looks like." The Hegemony's surrender offers became increasingly desperate. They offered to give up all human territory. They offered to pay tribute for 1,000 years. They offered to become human slaves. They offered to exile themselves to the edges of the galaxy. None of it mattered. The humans were no longer interested in negotiation. On the capital world of the Hegemony, High Commander Zek watched his civilization die in real time. Reports came in from every system showing the same pattern. Entire species going extinct in ways specifically designed to maximize terror and suffering. "How many do we have left?" Zek asked his aide. Population estimates show 70% losses across all member species. Military effectiveness down to 12%. Economic collapse complete. Social cohesion failing on every world. Zek closed his eyes. The humans had done the impossible. They had destroyed an empire that controlled half the galaxy in less than 6 months. But worse than that, they had done it with such precision that Zek knew they could have done it any time they wanted. "They were holding back," he whispered. "For 30 years they were holding back. We thought they were weak, but they were just choosing not to destroy us." His aide nodded. "Intelligence reports suggest the humans could have eliminated us completely within days of first contact. Everything they showed us, their diplomacy, their peaceful colonies, their reluctance to fight, it was all real. But it was just one side of their nature. And now we have met the other side," Zek said. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the Mirthani homeworlds turn brown as their oceans died. Billions of aquatic beings were transforming into something that could not survive in water or air. They would die slowly, watching their children and their civilization collapse around them. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the Human Fleet Command. General Chen wants to speak with you." Morrison activated the communication screen. Marcus Chen appeared, his face showing no emotion as he delivered his final orders. "Phase 4 is complete," he said. "Begin Phase 5, leave no witnesses. No survivors. No possibility of recovery. Make sure no species in this galaxy ever makes the mistake of thinking humans are weak again." Morrison nodded. Phase 5 was the end. Total sterilization of every hegemony world. Not just killing the population, but destroying the planets themselves. Making sure that nothing could ever grow in hegemony space again. "Understood, General. How long do we have?" "Take as long as you need," Marcus replied. "We are not in a hurry. Let them know we are coming. Let them try to run. Let them understand that there is no escape from what they chose to become our enemies." The transmission ended. Morrison looked out at the dying worlds below and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no emotion at all. The humans had become exactly what the hegemony had forced them to become. Perfect killers, efficient destroyers, machines designed for extinction. They had tried to be something better. They had wanted to be explorers and teachers and friends to the galaxy, but the hegemony had taught them that the universe only respected strength. So they had become stronger than anyone imagined possible. And now 12 species were paying the price for that lesson. The end came not with a massive fleet, but with a single ship. High Commander Zek stood on the observation deck of the hegemony's last stronghold, watching the small human vessel approach their capital world. Around him, the final remnants of 12 once mighty civilizations waited for death. Less than 1 million beings remained from populations that had once numbered in the trillions. The ship was not a warship. It bore diplomatic markings and transmitted peaceful intentions. After everything the humans had done, they were sending a diplomat. "Sir," his aide whispered, "the ship is requesting permission to land. They say they have a message from the human leadership." Zek laughed bitterly. "Let them come. What more can they do to us?" The ship landed in the capital city's central plaza. The doors opened, and a figure stepped out that made Zek's blood freeze. It was Ambassador Chen Wei, the human diplomat whose death had started this war. But she was different now, scarred, changed. Her eyes held depths of pain that had not been there before. Chen walked through the empty streets of the capital, her footsteps echoing off abandoned buildings. The few surviving hegemony citizens who saw her fled in terror. They had seen what her people could do. They knew she represented something more terrible than any weapon. She entered the government building and made her way to the council chambers. The last 12 representatives of the hegemony species sat around a table waiting for her. They looked like broken dolls, their spirits crushed by months of systematic extermination. "High Commander Zek," Chen said, taking a seat at the table. "You look surprised to see me." "You died," Zek whispered. "We watched you die on Earth. The transmission showed your execution." Chen smiled sadly. "I survived. Barely. I spent the last 6 months traveling through what remains of your empire, watching what my people have become. Watching what you forced us to become." She placed a data pad on the table. "These are the final casualty reports. 11.7 billion Murthani dead, 8.9 billion Kethavar dead, 7.2 billion Zephyrians dead, and so on for all 12 of your species. Total deaths, 94.6 billion sentient beings." The numbers hit the council like physical blows. They had known their people were dying, but seeing the complete scope of the slaughter laid out in cold mathematics was overwhelming. "Why?" asked Councillor Mayer of the few surviving Murthani. "Why did you come here to tell us this? Why not just finish the job?" Chen leaned forward. "Because I want you to understand something. This war could have ended differently. Every single one of those deaths could have been prevented. All you had to do was accept peace when we offered it." She activated a holographic display that showed the timeline of human hegemony relations. 30 years ago, we sent our first peace treaty. You rejected it. 28 years ago, we offered trade agreements. You destroyed our merchant ships. 25 years ago, we proposed joint colonies. You enslaved our settlers. The display showed dozens of peace offers, all rejected. Hundreds of attempts at negotiation, all ignored. Thousands of human deaths that could have been prevented. "We tried everything," Chen continued. "We offered you our technology, our friendship, our loyalty. We begged you to stop killing our people. We surrendered unconditionally 3 times. You laughed at us. You called us weak. You said we deserved to die because we would not fight back." Chen stood and walked to the window, looking out at the dead city below. "So we stopped trying to be what you would not let us be. We became what you forced us to become, and now you see the result. But you won," Zek said desperately. "You destroyed us. It is over. What more do you want?" Chen turned back to face the council. "I want you to make a choice. The same choice you refused to give us." She placed another device on the table. It looked like a simple communicator, but the council knew it was something else. Something final. "This device will transmit a message to every remaining ship in the human fleet," Chen explained. "I can send one of 2 signals. The first signal will order our forces to stand down. The war will end. Your surviving populations will be allowed to live under human supervision. You will never threaten anyone again, but you will survive. And the second signal? Sek asked, though he already knew the answer. Total extinction. Every planet where your species ever lived will be sterilized. Every space station, every ship, every settlement will be destroyed. Your languages will be forgotten. Your cultures will disappear. Your species will become nothing more than entries in human history books. Chen sat down again, her hand resting on the device. 30 years ago, we gave you this same choice. Peace or war, coexistence or destruction. You chose war. Now I am giving you one last chance to choose differently. The council members looked at each other in despair. After everything that had happened, the humans were still offering them a choice. Even now, at the end of everything, they were trying to find a way to avoid complete genocide. Why? Councillor Mir asked again. After what we did to your people, why are you offering us mercy? Chen's expression grew distant. Because if we kill all of you, we become exactly what you said we were. Monsters. And some part of me still remembers who we used to be before you taught us to be killers. She paused, then continued. But I need you to understand something. This offer expires in 1 hour, and if you refuse it, there will be no more chances, no more negotiations, no more mercy. The human war machine we built to destroy you has grown beyond our ability to control it completely. Even I am not sure we can stop it if we decide to finish this. Sek stared at the device. One button to save his people. One button to doom them completely. After all the death, all the horror, all the extinction, it came down to a simple choice. If we accept supervision, he asked, what does that mean? It means your people will live under human law. You will have no military, no weapons, no ships capable of interstellar travel. You will be monitored constantly. Any sign of aggression will result in immediate termination. You will essentially be prisoners in your own space. But we will live. You will live. Your children will live. Your cultures will continue, even if they are forever changed. It is not the future you wanted, but it is a future. The council debated frantically, knowing their time was running out. Some argued for pride for choosing death over slavery. Others begged for any chance at survival. Finally, Sek made the decision that would determine the fate of trillions of potential future lives. We accept your terms, he said quietly. We choose to live. Chen nodded and pressed the first button. Across the galaxy, human fleets received the stand-down order. The extinction protocols were canceled. The war was over. You have made the right choice, Chen said. The choice we hoped you would make 30 years ago. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. I want you to send a message to every species in the galaxy. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity offered peace first and war second. Tell them that we prefer to build rather than destroy. But also tell them what happens to species that mistake our kindness for weakness. Chen walked back to her ship, leaving the survivors to process what had happened. She had prevented total genocide, but at a cost. Humanity had revealed its true nature to the galaxy. They were no longer the peaceful explorers they had once been. They were something harder, something more dangerous. As her ship lifted off, Chen recorded one final message to be broadcast across the galaxy. To all species who received this transmission, I am Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth. 6 months ago, the hegemony destroyed my homeworld because they believed humans were too weak to defend themselves. Today, the hegemony has ceased to exist as a military power. She paused, looking out at the stars. We tried peace. We offered friendship. We wanted to explore the galaxy together, learning from each other and building something beautiful. That offer is still open to species willing to accept it. But to those who choose war, who see kindness as weakness, who believe that might makes right, remember what happened here. Remember that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our ships or our strategies. Our greatest strength is that we choose peace first. And when peace fails, we are very, very good at the alternative. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, countless species received the message and made their own choices about how to approach the humans they had once dismissed as harmless. Most chose peace. They had seen what happened to those who chose war. But in the depths of space, human fleets continued their patrols, keeping watch over a galaxy that now understood what they were really capable of when pushed too far. The humans had tried peace. When that failed, they had shown the galaxy the other side of their nature. Now everyone knew that both sides existed, and everyone could choose which one they wanted to meet.
John Carter stood by the viewing port of the transport ship. The massive council station Aurelius hung against the backdrop of stars like a gleaming metal flower. Its 5 petal-shaped sections extended from a central hub, each one representing one of the founding species of the Galactic Council. After 6 months of travel, they had finally arrived. Quite a sight, isn't it? Susan Miller joined him at the window. Her blue uniform matched his own, both bearing the Earth insignia, a simple blue circle with white continents. "I never thought I'd see anything like this," John said. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community. Kevin Pierce, their tech specialist, approached with a tablet. "Final briefing materials, sir. The Council has approved our docking request." John nodded. "Let's hope they're as welcoming as their messages suggested." The truth was that Earth had kept certain things secret. Their rapid development of faster-than-light travel had shocked the galaxy. What the Council didn't know was that humans had also made quick advances in weapons and defense systems. John's job was to secure Earth's place in the galactic community without revealing too much. As their ship docked, John felt the slight shudder of the magnetic clamps. A soft hiss indicated the airlocks were connecting. He straightened his uniform and faced his small team. "Remember, we represent all of humanity now. First impressions matter." The doors slid open to reveal a reception party of different alien species. At the front stood a tall, blue-skinned being with silver eyes. "Welcome to Aurelius Station. I am Diplomat Kirval of the Zephyrian Empire." The alien's translator made its voice sound almost musical. "The Council awaits your formal introduction." John stepped forward and bowed slightly. "John Carter, representing Earth and all humanity. We come in peace and friendship." The halls of the station were enormous, with ceilings that rose at least 30 feet. Beams of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors. Some floated, others crawled, many walked on varying numbers of legs. "The Council has existed for 12,000 years, Kirval explained as they walked. "We have brought peace and order to nearly 60% of the galaxy." "Impressive," John said. "Earth looks forward to contributing to that peace." Kirval's silver eyes studied him. "Yes, contributing. That is what new species do." After a long walk, they reached a massive chamber. A semicircle of raised platforms held representatives from dozens of species. At the center, on the highest platform, sat a being that looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. "High Counselor Vextar," Kirval announced, "leader of the Council for the past 3 centuries." Vextar's compound eyes fixed on John. "Earth has developed quite rapidly," the alien said through its translator. "Faster than most emerging species. This is unusual." John smiled. "Humans are adaptable. We learn quickly." "Indeed." Vextar's mandibles clicked. "We have reviewed your application for membership. There are concerns." Susan stepped slightly closer to John. This wasn't the welcome they expected. "What concerns?" John asked. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing Earth's solar system. "Your military capabilities," said another council member, a red-skinned being with 4 arms. "For a species so new to space travel, you maintain a large armed force." "For defense only," John assured them. "We come from a historically divided world. Old habits are hard to break." Vextar's eyes narrowed. "Yes, we have studied your history. So much conflict, so much war." The meeting continued for hours as John explained Earth's position and desires. Some council members seemed friendly, others suspicious. By the end, John was exhausted. Back in their assigned quarters, Kevin collapsed into a chair. "That went well, didn't it?" Susan shook her head. "They're afraid of us. Did you see how they reacted when you mentioned our mining operations in the asteroid belt?" John looked out at the stars. "We have 3 weeks of negotiations ahead. We'll convince them that humanity belongs here." He smiled at his team. "After all, what's the worst that could happen?" None of them noticed the small recording device hidden in the corner of their room. its light blinking steadily. 3 weeks passed quickly on Aurelius Station. John Carter had attended dozens of meetings with various council representatives. Today marked what he hoped would be their final session before Earth received provisional membership status. "You look tired," Susan said as they walked together toward the main council chamber. John smiled weakly. "Just ready to wrap this up. I think we've made good progress." Kevin hurried to catch up with them, his face flushed with excitement. "The Arxians want to establish a direct trade agreement. Their ambassador just told me they're impressed with our manufacturing techniques." "That's the third species this week," Susan noted. "Maybe we're finally winning them over." John nodded but remained cautious. High Counselor Vextar had been notably absent from their recent meetings. Something felt off. As they approached the council chamber, John noticed more security than usual. Tall, armored guards from the crawl species lined the hallway, their 4 eyes tracking the humans' every move. "That's new," Kevin whispered. Inside the chamber, John immediately sensed the change in atmosphere. The usual buzz of conversation died as they entered. All council members were present, including Vextar, who sat rigidly at the center podium. "Representatives of Earth." Vextar's voice boomed without using the typical polite greeting. "The council has reached a decision regarding your application." John stepped forward. "We're eager to hear it." Before that, Vextar continued, "We must address certain discoveries." A holographic display activated in the center of the room. It showed images of Earth's military installations, weapons testing facilities, and what appeared to be classified defense systems. John's stomach dropped. Those were secured files, never shared with the council. Vextar's compound eyes fixed on John. "You came to us claiming peaceful intentions while hiding your true military capabilities. Every species has a right to self-defense," John argued. "We." Silence. Vextar slammed a clawed hand down. "The council has evidence that Earth planned to use membership as a way to access advanced technologies for weapons development." Susan stepped forward. "That's completely false. We've been transparent about." 2 crawl guards suddenly moved to block the exits. John realized this wasn't a normal meeting. It was a trap. By unanimous vote, Vextar announced, "The council finds Earth's representatives guilty of espionage and conspiracy against galactic peace." The chamber erupted in shouts and accusations from various species. John tried to speak, but his microphone had been cut off. "This is ridiculous," Kevin hissed. "They're making this up." Susan pulled out her communication device. "I'm contacting Earth now." She began typing rapidly as guards moved toward them. "Humans represent a unique threat," Vextar continued above the noise. "Your species develops too quickly, adapts too readily, and harbors too much aggression to join the galactic community." The guards reached them. One grabbed Kevin's arm while another moved toward John. "Susan, send the message now," John shouted as hands seized him. Susan hit the final command just before a guard knocked the device from her hand. The emergency beacon activated, sending a partial message across space toward Earth. "Betrayal. Council hostile. Carter TM in danger. Possible EXE." The device clattered to the floor, where a guard crushed it under a heavy boot. "Take them to holding cells," Vextar ordered. "Prepare for a public trial." As they were dragged away, John locked eyes with Vextar. "You're making a terrible mistake." The High Counselor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "No, human. The mistake was allowing your kind to reach the stars." In the confusion, no one noticed the small Arxian representative slip away from the chamber, a copy of Susan's partial message stored in its own communication device. Back on Earth, defense systems detected the incoming emergency signal. Alarms began to sound in military headquarters worldwide. The news hit Earth like a thunderbolt. Emergency meetings convened in every major government within hours of receiving Susan's partial message. At United Earth Defense Headquarters, the Situation Room buzzed with grim activity. Admiral William Scott paced the floor, his face hard with anger. We need to launch a rescue operation immediately. The Carter team is in danger. Our fastest ships would take 5 days to reach Aurelia Station, a junior officer reported. And we have no idea what kind of defenses we'd face. Defense Secretary Patricia Lane entered the room, her face pale. She carried a small black case with a fingerprint scanner. The President has authorized me to access Protocol Zero. The room went silent. Most people present had heard rumors about Protocol Zero, but few knew what it actually contained. Madam Secretary, Admiral Scott said quietly, "Are you sure that's necessary?" Patricia nodded grimly. "The President thinks we need all options on the table." She pressed her thumb to the scanner. The case clicked open. Meanwhile, on Aurelia Station, John Carter stood in a transparent cell. Guards from 3 different species watched him constantly. They had separated him from Susan and Kevin immediately after arrest. A door slid open, and Vextar entered, flanked by Council security. "Your trial begins in 1 hour," the High Counselor announced. "It will be broadcast to all Council worlds." John approached the barrier. "This is a mistake. Earth poses no threat to the Council. Recent scans of your solar system show military vessels mobilizing," Vextar replied. "Your people prepare for war even now. They're responding to our distress signal," John explained. "If you release us and open proper negotiations." The Council has voted. Your species requires a lesson in galactic hierarchy. Vextar's compound eyes showed no emotion. You personally will provide that lesson. In another cell, Susan had managed to loosen a panel near her sleeping platform. The station's recycling system connected to a network of maintenance tunnels. If she could just make the opening a bit wider. The trial was a spectacle designed for maximum impact across the galaxy. John stood in the center of the Council chamber, surrounded by guards. Massive screens projected his image to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. Vextar read the charges: espionage, concealment of military capabilities, intent to destabilize galactic peace. No evidence was presented. No defense was permitted. When John was finally allowed to speak, he stood tall. "I represent a young species," he began, his voice steady. "We've had our struggles and made many mistakes, but humanity has always strived to be better, to reach farther. We came to you in good faith, seeking friendship." Many Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "If this is justice in the galactic community," John continued, "then perhaps humanity is better off alone. But know this, Earth will not be easily intimidated. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive tendencies. We will survive this too." Vextar cut off his speech. "The Council has reached its verdict. Guilty on all charges. The sentence is death, to be carried out immediately." Back on Earth, Patricia Lane opened a secure communication channel to the President. "Ma'am, I've reviewed Protocol Zero. It's far more extensive than I imagined. The previous administration developed contingencies for exactly this scenario." President Eleanor Harding's face looked grave on the screen. "What exactly does the protocol entail?" Patricia took a deep breath. It's an annihilation strategy, designed to make any aggressor regret attacking humanity." "Can it save Carter and his team?" "I don't think so, but it ensures their sacrifice won't be meaningless." As they spoke, Admiral Scott burst into the room. "Madam President, we're receiving a galaxy-wide broadcast. They're putting Carter on trial now." The screen split to show the Council chamber. They watched in horror as John Carter faced his accusers with dignity. "Earth will not forget," John said as guards moved to take him away. "Earth will not forgive." The broadcast continued, unflinching, as billions across the galaxy watched the execution of humanity's first envoy. Silence fell across Earth as the broadcast ended. For several minutes, nobody moved in the Situation Room. The image of John Carter's execution burned in everyone's mind. President Eleanor Harding stood slowly, her face a mask of controlled rage. "Get me every world leader on a secure line. Now." Around the globe, riots broke out as news spread. People demanded action. Justice, revenge. Military bases went on high alert. Civilian space traffic was grounded immediately. In her office, President Harding faced the Emergency Council. Leaders from every nation appeared on screens around the room. "We have all witnessed an act of barbarism," she began. "The unprovoked execution of our envoy demands a response." The Russian president spoke first. "We must show strength. The council thinks we are weak." "They killed one of our own," added the Indian Prime Minister. "If we do nothing, we invite more aggression." Defense Secretary Patricia Lane stepped forward. "Madam President, Protocol Zero is ready for your final approval." Harding looked at the faces of world leaders. The protocol would mean full-scale war against technologically superior enemies. "We could be destroyed, or we could show them what humans are truly capable of," said Admiral Scott. "Our hidden fleet is ready. Our special weapons are in place." For 48 hours, Earth's leaders debated. Reports from space indicated council ships were already moving toward the Sol system. Time was running out. Meanwhile, on Aurelia Station, Susan Miller crawled through maintenance tunnels. After 3 days of careful work, she had escaped her cell. Now she needed to find Kevin and a way off the station. As she rounded a corner, she nearly ran into a small, green-skinned alien with large eyes. "Stop," the alien whispered. "Guards ahead." Susan froze, ready to fight. "I am Zithril, Arxian diplomat." The alien continued. "I help you." "Why would you help me?" Susan asked suspiciously. "Many on council disagree with Vextar," Zithril explained. "The execution was wrong. Come with me." Susan hesitated, then nodded. She had few options. Zithril led her through back passages to a small living quarters. Inside, Kevin Pierce sat on a couch, his face bruised but alive. "Susan." He jumped up and hugged her tightly. "I thought you were dead." "The Arxians have been hiding him," Zithril explained. "Now we hide you too. Later, we find way to get you home." "Home might not be safe much longer," Susan said grimly. "The council will attack Earth next." Zithril's large eyes blinked. "Maybe, but your people have time to prepare." Back on Earth, the final vote was unanimous. President Harding stood before a joint session of the United Nations. "Today, humanity faces its greatest threat," she said, her voice steady. "An alien council has murdered our diplomat and plans to subjugate our world." Cameras broadcast her words to every corner of Earth. "We did not seek this conflict. We came in peace." Her voice hardened. "But humanity will not bow. We will not surrender. We will not go quietly." She pressed her hand on a biometric scanner. "By unanimous agreement of all Earth nations, I hereby activate Annihilation Protocol Zero." Across the planet, military bases hummed with activity. Hidden missile silos opened. Orbital platforms that had been disguised as research stations revealed weapon systems. Deep space beacons went dark as Earth cut all communications with the galaxy. In lunar bases and hidden asteroid facilities, ships that no alien species knew existed powered up. Special Forces units received sealed orders. Admiral Scott addressed his fleet commanders from a secure bunker. "The Council believes they know what humans are capable of," he said. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." As Earth prepared for war, Council ships approached the edge of the solar system. On the lead vessel, Vextar watched sensor readings with confidence. "The humans have gone silent," an officer reported. "Their primitive defenses activate." Vextar's mandibles clicked in amusement. As expected, begin the invasion. The High Counselor had no idea that Earth's silence wasn't fear. It was the calm before a storm, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 3 days passed with no sign of human resistance. The Council fleet moved steadily toward Earth, scanning for defenses. Their sensors detected basic orbital stations and a small fleet of military vessels gathering near Mars. "Their technology is primitive," reported the Krall commander to Vextar. They have some nuclear weapons and energy shields, but nothing that can stop our fleet." Vextar watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The execution of their envoy has broken their spirit. "Prepare landing parties for Earth. We will establish direct control of their governments." Throughout Council space, the invasion was the main topic across all communication channels. Most species believed the conflict would end quickly. Humans were seen as an unfortunate but necessary example of what happened to species that didn't know their place. Then everything changed. On 5 major Council worlds, at exactly the same moment, massive explosions tore through military installations, space docks, command centers, weapons factories, all erupted in balls of fire visible from orbit. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Commander Calivor stared in shock at reports flooding in. How? There were no ships, no warning, nothing on sensors. Emergency signals poured in from across Council space. The pattern was always the same. Key military targets destroyed with no attacker detected. On his flagship, Vextar raged at his officers. "Find the human ships. They must have some kind of cloaking technology." "There are no ships, High Counselor," a science officer replied nervously. "Whatever weapon they used, it's unlike anything in our records." In their hiding place on Aurelius Station, Susan and Kevin watched the news reports with Zithril. "Earth did this?" Kevin asked in amazement. Susan nodded slowly. "Protocol 0. It must be. I heard rumors about special weapons research, but nothing this advanced." Zithril looked troubled. "Your people have hidden much from the galaxy, just as the Council hid their true intentions from us," Susan replied. Back on Earth, Admiral Scott met with President Harding in a deep underground bunker. "First phase complete," he reported. "Quantum entanglement bombs have crippled their military infrastructure." President Harding nodded. "Casualties? Minimal. We targeted unmanned facilities where possible, as ordered. This was a demonstration of capability, not a massacre." Patricia Lane entered with a data tablet. "The Council fleet has stopped advancing. They're holding position just beyond Jupiter's orbit." "They're confused," Admiral Scott said with grim satisfaction. "They can't understand how we hit them without ships." President Harding studied the tactical display. "Are we ready for Phase 2? "Yes, Madam President. Special forces are in position across Council space. Commander Ellis reports his teams have infiltrated 6 primary targets, including the Crawl homeworld. In deep space, invisible to Council sensors, human stealth ships moved into position. Inside one, Commander Jason Ellis briefed his team. "Our mission is simple," he told the dozen men and women in black combat suits. "Disable their planetary defense grid without casualties. This isn't revenge, it's strategy." A soldier spoke up. "Sir, they killed Carter. Shouldn't we hit them harder?" Ellis shook his head. "The protocol isn't about becoming like them. It's about showing them they picked the wrong species to bully." The ship slipped through the Crawl defense perimeter without triggering a single alarm. Technology that Earth had kept hidden for years made them completely invisible to alien sensors. Meanwhile, Major Olivia Wright led a different mission. Her team's objective: rescue any surviving human diplomats and citizens in Council space. "Susan Miller is our priority target," she told her team as their ship approached Aurelius Station. "Intelligence suggests she's still alive and in hiding. We find her, we may gain valuable intel on Council weaknesses." As her team prepared for insertion, Olivia checked her special equipment. The quantum disruptors could disable any known Council technology with a single pulse. The neural stunners could incapacitate any known species without permanent harm. Earth wasn't just fighting back. It was fighting smart, with technologies no one knew humans possessed. On his flagship, Vextar received another report of a critical facility gone dark. For the first time, the High Counselor felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The Council declared full war against Earth. Every available ship was called to join the fight. Species that had never taken sides in conflicts found themselves forced to provide resources and troops. This human problem must be eliminated completely, Vextar announced to an emergency session of the Council. Their technology threatens the stability of our entire civilization. Not everyone agreed. Several minor species representatives voiced concerns about escalation. The Arxians openly questioned the wisdom of the initial execution. Vextar silenced them all. "Any who stand with humans stand against the Council," he declared. On Aurelia's station, Susan and Kevin prepared to move. Their Arxian friends had warned them that station security was conducting room-by-room searches. "We need to reach docking bay 12, Zithril explained. "A cargo ship leaves for the outer territories in 3 hours. The captain will hide you." As they gathered their few possessions, an alarm blared through the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. "What's happening?" Kevin asked. Zithril checked a communication device. "Security breach in Sector 7. Someone has entered the station without authorization." Susan and Kevin exchanged looks. "Earth forces," Susan whispered hopefully. Their answer came minutes later when the station's power fluctuated. Emergency systems kicked in, but many security doors remained open. "We go now," Zithril urged. "This distraction is good timing." They slipped into the corridor, moving quickly toward the docking bays. Twice they had to hide as security teams ran past. The station was in chaos. In a control room 3 levels below, Major Olivia Wright and her team worked quickly. 2 team members guarded the door while others accessed the station's systems. "I've located 2 human life signs moving toward docking bay 12, reported Sergeant Alan Foster. "Could be our targets." Olivia nodded. "Jones, Peterson, intercept them. Be careful. They may have alien escorts." Meanwhile, Commander Ellis's team had successfully infiltrated the Krull Homeworld's Defense Command Center. Using non-lethal weapons, they neutralized the guards without raising alarms. 60 seconds until full access, reported his tech specialist as she worked on the alien computer systems. Ellis watched the door. "Remember, we're not here to cause permanent damage. Just take their defense grid offline for 12 hours. "Sir, with respect, they killed Carter. They're planning to attack Earth," one of his soldiers said quietly. Ellis turned to face his team. "And we're showing them what happens when you attack humans. But we do it our way. Smart, precise, and without becoming monsters ourselves." The tech specialist looked up from her work. "I'm in. Defense grid controls accessed. Begin shutdown sequence," Ellis ordered. Back on the Council flagship, Vextar received increasingly disturbing reports. Defense systems on multiple worlds were failing. Communication networks experienced unexplained outages. Supply ships disappeared. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his advisors. Their technology was supposed to be generations behind ours. They concealed their true capabilities. An analyst suggested, "The diplomatic mission may have been a ruse to assess our strengths and weaknesses." Vextar slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Find their ships. They must have a fleet somewhere." "High Counselor," a communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth." Vextar froze. After days of silence, the humans were finally speaking. "Put it on the main screen." The image of President Eleanor Harding appeared. She sat at a simple desk with Earth's flag behind her. Her expression was calm but determined. "People of the Galactic Council," she began. 3 days ago, your leadership executed our envoy, John Carter, without just cause. You believed this would intimidate us into submission. You were wrong." Vextar hissed but continued watching. "You have seen only a fraction of humanity's capabilities," President Harding continued. "We have shown restraint by targeting military installations while minimizing casualties. This restraint should not be mistaken for weakness." She leaned forward slightly. "The Council has 24 hours to respond to our terms. After that, we will demonstrate the full extent of the Annihilation Protocol." The transmission ended, leaving Vextar staring at a blank screen. "What are their terms?" he asked quietly. The communications officer looked up nervously. They didn't send any High Counselor. For the first time in his 3 centuries of life, Vextar felt true fear grip his heart. Chaos erupted in the council chamber. Representatives from 50 species argued loudly about how to respond to the human ultimatum. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for an all-out attack on Earth. Vextar watched silently from his elevated position. His authority, once absolute, was crumbling. "The humans have not even sent their demands," shouted the Zephyrian delegate. "How can we respond to terms we haven't received?" The Kral representative stood tall on his 4 legs. "This is clearly a trick. While we debate, they disable more of our defenses." An aide approached Vextar and whispered urgently in his ear. The High Counselor's compound eyes widened. "Silence." Vextar's voice boomed across the chamber. "We have just received the human terms." The room grew quiet as Vextar activated the central display. President Harding's image appeared again, this time in a recorded message. "Our terms are simple," she stated firmly. "First, the immediate dissolution of the current council leadership. Second, those responsible for John Carter's execution must face justice under interspecies law. Third, acknowledgement of Earth as a full and equal member of a reformed galactic community." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Finally, President Harding continued, "We demand recognition of our sovereign right to defend ourselves without interference." The recording ended. Before anyone could speak, another transmission cut through all channels. This one showed a small uninhabited moon orbiting a council colony world. "To demonstrate our resolve," came a voice without visuals. "Observe." A brief flash of light appeared near the moon. Nothing seemed to happen for several seconds. Then, silently, the moon began to crack. Fissures spread across its surface before it shattered completely into billions of fragments. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. "We have placed similar devices near the homeworlds of all council founding species," the voice continued. "You have 12 hours to comply with our terms." On Aurelia's station, Susan and Kevin rounded a corner and came face to face with 2 humans in black combat suits. "Susan Miller," one asked, lowering her weapon. "Major Olivia Wright, Earth Special Forces. We're here to extract you." Susan nearly collapsed with relief. "Kevin Pierce is with me," she said, indicating her colleague. "And this is Zithril, an Arctian who helped us hide." Major Wright nodded to the alien. "Thank you for your assistance. We've secured a shuttle in Bay 9. We need to move quickly." As they hurried through the corridors, Susan had to know, "What's happening?" "The station is in chaos. Earth is fighting back," Wright explained. "Protocol 0 has been activated." "What exactly is this protocol?" Kevin asked. Wright glanced at him. "The complete details are classified. But in simple terms, it's every contingency plan, every hidden weapon, every advanced technology we kept secret from the galaxy, all deployed at once." Back on Earth, Admiral Scott reported to President Harding in the war room. "The demonstration was successful," he said. "Our quantum fracture device worked exactly as designed." Patricia Lane nodded. "The moon was uninhabited, as requested. No casualties, but the message should be clear." President Harding looked at the tactical display showing council space. Small lights indicated human special forces teams operating throughout enemy territory. "Any word from Major Wright's extraction team?" she asked. "They've secured Miller and Pierce, plus an Arxian defector. They're en route to Rendezvous Point Delta." The president nodded. "And the council's response to our terms?" "Nothing official yet," Patricia replied. "But we're seeing increasing divisions among their leadership. Several species have withdrawn their ships from the fleet approaching Earth." Admiral Scott smiled slightly. "The Arctians have officially declared neutrality in the conflict. 3 other minor species have followed their lead." "And Vextar?" the president asked. "Still refusing to negotiate, but his support is crumbling." President Harding stood and moved to the window, looking up at the night sky. John believed peaceful cooperation with the galaxy was possible. He died for that belief. She turned back to her advisors. We will honor him by creating the peace he envisioned, even if we must force it into existence. In council space, more ships quietly left the invasion fleet. The humans had proven far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The 12-hour deadline approached its final minutes. In the council chamber, representatives argued bitterly. Many had already accepted that resistance against Earth was futile. Others, mostly those closest to Vexstar, still called for fighting to the end. Better to die with dignity than submit to primitives, the Crawl representative growled. An aide rushed into the chamber and whispered to several delegates. The news spread quickly. 6 more council worlds had declared neutrality. The invasion fleet had lost nearly half its ships. Vexstar stood alone at the center podium, his once imposing figure now seeming smaller. I will not surrender to human demands, he declared. As High Counselor, You are High Counselor no longer, interrupted the Zephyrian delegate. By emergency vote, the Council has removed you from leadership. Security officers entered the chamber. For a moment, Vexstar looked as if he might resist. Then his shoulders sagged. You doom us all, he said as they led him away. The new acting leader, a Zephyrian named Torlak, immediately opened a channel to Earth. President Harding, the Council accepts your terms. We request a ceasefire and formal negotiations. On Earth, the war room erupted in cheers. President Harding maintained her composure as she addressed the Zephyrian. We accept your surrender. Earth forces will occupy Aurelia Station while a new galactic charter is drafted. Within hours, human ships appeared in orbit around the Council's most important worlds. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the Council had never suspected existed. 1 week later, Susan Miller stood beside President Harding as they boarded a shuttle to Aurelia Station. Susan had been appointed as Earth's new ambassador. Are you ready for this? President Harding asked her. Susan nodded. John would have wanted me to continue his work. A better galaxy for everyone, not just the powerful. The shuttle docked at a transformed Aurelia Station. Human forces maintained security, but they worked alongside aliens from dozens of species. The atmosphere was cautious but hopeful. In the main council chamber, representatives gathered for the signing of the new charter. The room had been redesigned. At its center stood a memorial, a simple hologram showing John Carter as he had appeared during his final speech. Torlak, still acting as interim council leader, addressed the assembly. Today marks a new beginning for our galactic community. Recent events have taught us painful but necessary lessons about power, justice, and the danger of arrogance. He turned to the human delegation. We misjudged humanity, to our great cost. We saw your rapid advancement as a threat rather than an opportunity. President Harding stepped forward, and we revealed only a fraction of our capabilities, fearing prejudice. Both sides must learn from these mistakes. The new charter was signed by representatives from every species, including many that had previously been excluded from full council membership. It guaranteed equal rights, transparent justice, and mutual defense. In a secure facility on the rebuilt Crawl homeworld, Commander Ellis watched as Vexstar and his closest allies faced trial. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy as a reminder that even the most powerful were not above justice. Did we go too far? Ellis asked Major Wright, who stood beside him. Olivia shook her head. We did what was necessary. The protocol worked exactly as intended. Annihilation without destruction, Ellis mused. Breaking their power without breaking their worlds. 6 months later, Susan Miller stood in the newly named Carter Memorial Hall on Aurelia Station. The council had been reformed with human guidance. Technology was being shared. Trade flourished. Zithral joined her at the window overlooking the stars. Your people have changed everything, the Arxian observed. Susan watched as ships from a dozen worlds docked at the station. John believed different species could work together despite our differences. He was right. Below the memorial hologram, A plaque displayed John Carter's final words: "Earth will not forget. Earth will not forgive." But someone had added a new line beneath: "Annihilation Protocol. Completed." Not the destruction of the Council, but the annihilation of fear, arrogance, and injustice. A new galaxy had emerged from the ashes of the old order, and humanity stood at its center, no longer hidden, no longer